You know, this is really my fault. After doing 2 positive reviews, I kind of felt that I should review something that was, well, bad. And after getting this as a suggestion, I can only blame myself. So if you can't tell, this is my review of Black Bullet and I didn't like it. Although, let me be clear that I don't think that this is an absolute abomination, since it didn't really do anything that was really bad. Although, on the other hand, it never really did anything that was ever below mediocre. The characters are bland, generic, and forgettable, and the world is uninspired and utterly uninteresting. And lastly, the plot, like everything else, was below average. Starting off with the setting, which is constructed very poorly. And the first big sign that something was wrong with this setup was probably when 2 characters started to blur it all out in exposition, even though they already knew all this information, not forced at all. Anyway, basically it's just your uninteresting end of the world plot. And in a nutshell, there's a deadly virus which just came out of nowhere and turns people into generic monsters. With a side effect of this being that it gives powers to little girls who were born with the virus. And then they would team up with what is called a promoter in order to stop these monsters. Now, an end of the world type dealio has really been done a lot in the past. And this one did utterly nothing to make it stand out or even just do anything at all that was unique, which is really the main problem. I mean, I do kind of feel like this perhaps could have been good if the right people were behind it. First off, its construction is very weak. The setting really never grows or expands at all. No new points or info is ever shown. It is just what you see is what you get. Which doesn't help its case at all, being that it's just plain and boring as it is. Even worse, I felt that it was lacking construction even with the little things they did give us. For example, they really never end up saying where the virus actually came from. Yeah, this is kind of a basic thing, guys, considering it's kind of the main premise of your show. I mean, if the characters know it, which I'm assuming they do, therefore you should show it to the audience or it just comes out as you're restricting critical points of the plot. But this is not my major complaint with the setting. The biggest problem with the setting is how it is handled. They never take these guys as a serious threat. I honestly ended up forgetting these killer monsters that are threatening humanity a good amount of the time. And that is a huge problem if I end up thinking what ends the world is some unimportant background matter. They needed to show more of the fear and the suffering in order for us to care. One scene at the beginning of the anime is not enough that you can justify several episodes without us even seeing these monsters or their presence on the world. There wasn't anything to separate them from any of the numerous other monsters out there. There wasn't really any time where I felt this strong emotion because of them. The monsters themselves just looked bland and unimaginative, like no serious thought was really put into them, which only leads to just how much the world lacks a strong presence. Another thing which is loosely constructed is just with the setup with these cursed children, or the girls who are born with the virus, like Enju. And like with the end of the world thing, a prejudice has also been done a lot before, and needs to be well crafted. But like other points of this setup, this too has fallen flat on its face. Let me illustrate this. There is a virus that is killing humanity. The cursed children, who have a type of the virus, are fighting the monsters with power gained through the virus, and in turn saving the people. But the people have a prejudice against the cursed children who are saving them. See how this is stringed together like a bunch of cheese? I just don't see these two things as logical cause and effects. They needed to justify the prejudice, but they never do. Therefore, it just comes off like the writers are trying to cram a forced plot point right down your throat. The show never showed any negatives of the cursed children. To be plain, it was just another plot point that was utterly weightless. Although even with this in mind, I have to say that the biggest problem with this anime was the characters were completely bland and generic. Now, if the show did have good characters, you might be able to find at least some value with it. Starting off the cast of our uncolorful characters is Satomi Rentaro, who is in every sense a generic main character. He really doesn't have any traits that make him stand out in any sense. Nothing at all really to grab onto. He's just this generic kind of nice guy, and that's it. which is by far the easiest type of character to find in anime. He never really has anything to define him in a character sense. Sure, they can say he lost his parents, which is something this anime loves to pull out of its hat all the time, while never actually showing it. But if he was a good character, they would actually show how this affects him, or even how it doesn't affect him. Now, in contrast, in Code Geass and Attack on Titan, Lelouch and Eren both have their characters affected by the death of a loved one. They show why they cared and how this has affected them and their goals. It was a justification for why they acted. And of course, absolutely none of this is shown in Black Bullet. This is so much so that I wouldn't even think that he even ever went through these experiences at all. I don't even think the show even knows if it's supposed to be serious or not. To be fair, they did kind of try to give him a personality, more in the sense of a cool leader guy, but they never went in depth with his concept at all, and it doesn't define him in the slightest. I can't think of any instance where I just shown how he was a well-defined person, or this one cool moment he really had. Next up is his partner Enju, who suffers from pretty much the exact same problems. There's nothing about her that makes her stand out as a character and makes her unique. She's just somewhat a typical child character. And yet again, they tried to give her some depth by just saying she went through a dramatic change after meeting Rentaro. See what the problem is with that? They also tried to have this strong bond between the two, which isn't a bad idea. A lot of anime have done this and created some great investment out of it. But where this anime fails is I never felt there was any connection between them on screen at all. They just showed them doing everyday life and then suddenly tried to make a big deal about how they were such good partners. You just can't say they have an emotional connection. This needs to be shown. The only extent they can be bothered is this one lazy flashback, and what does it show? Enju becomes magically changed by eating Rentaro's food. Are you kidding me? You need more than this. You just can't show a flashback. That's not showing. That's lazily slapping something together out of nowhere. I even found it insulting how they feel like Enju has changed is enough to justify her and Rentaro's relationship was genuine. I would like to know how the writers thought this up. Should we show that Enju has changed because of Rentaro and create emotional investment through character development? Nah, that's stupid. If we did that, we would have to cut out all those scenes of girls fighting over Rentaro or those enchanting moments where everyone calls the protagonist a pervert. Oh, what a good storytelling this is. Are they literally trying to mock me by just saying she went through character development? What a testament to lazy writing! Speaking of unnecessary and generic, let's talk about the villains. The main villain is this guy of a mask who is so fruity that you can find him at your local fruit market, where no one wants to pick him up. For free. Basically, this guy just appears out of nowhere whenever he wants and then does evil stuff, shouting the whole time like a little schoolgirl about just how much he enjoys it. He even has a little quote-unquote henchman who loves to talk about cutting people. Why? You actually think the show would show you that. Okay, let's take a step back from our goofy little villain and talk about how you do a good psychopath. One thing he lacked is motivation, which just saying he doesn't like the government organization or has some other plans isn't good enough. Yeah, a lot of people don't like their government, but they're not going to turn into Captain Fruity over it. Even a psychopath has motivation. Granted, motivation with logical fallacies and unrealistic ideas, but it's still motivation. They should have went in detail of why he acts and thinks. Matter of fact, they just flat out say what his opinion is. It didn't create any good investment in his psyche. It just seemed a case of the writers throwing up their hands and saying, because he's evil. I could never take this guy seriously. He seemed more like a street performer than a dangerous psychopath, such as giving his moves names and screaming hallelujah in the middle of a fight for no reason. Yeah, how am I supposed to take this seriously? Other villains are even worse. Barely having any screen time and being thrown into the picture willy-nilly rather than just advancing the plot. Some of which have some brilliant and enlightening philosophical dialogue and motivation, such as What a well thought out and thought-provoking character. You know, having as many evil people as you can won't fix the others' problems. All the other characters suffer from the same problems as the protagonist. They are boring and greatly underdeveloped. I mean, what if anything makes them stand out at all? Some of them I feel like they just started to give development only for them to push them to the side for more undeveloped characters. Having a small group of uninteresting characters is bad, but having a large number of them, as they ended up doing, is even worse. You can't get me to remember pretty much anyone's name. Even worse, because they had no complexity, I didn't care about them, even when they died sacrificing their lives. So, they really dropped the ball hard with the characters. Not in the sense that they really hurt and were just atrocious train wrecks, but more of they didn't know how to write characters. Now before I rip on the plot, I have to be honest, they did do two things that did get some emotional reaction out of me. First was this girl, just because how she seemed to accept something so awful that happened to her. It was one of the very small instances I started to get a little bit invested in this world. Second was the ending of episode 10, just because of, again, they seemed to take themselves seriously and showed the harsh reality of the world that didn't spare the innocent. But two scenes doesn't save a show. They are just two nice flowers in a sea of below mediocrity to just bad. Now, even with this in mind, I can't be very forgiving with this plot, especially with just how scatterbrained it wanted to be at times. At best, it's poorly constructed, and like everything else in the show, it suffers from being underdeveloped. It ends up jumping around, trying to progress the plot, trying to show prejudice, to just acting like a slice of life anime, or trying to make a little romance. It never gave enough time and well thought out attention to any of them to make them meaningful or rememberable at all. Not that you can't do a lot of things and still have them be good, but it is always better to do one thing excellently rather than just to do a lot of things bad. Some of the events and transitions in the plot are completely non-existent and just seem to go from point A to point B at times. The result of this being my complete uninterested in the characters and the episodes themselves, and being extremely bored. I constantly checked how much time I had left just because I wanted to go to bed. This is a sign of a bad anime. I mean, you can't expect me to care about characters, a plot, and a world that are so utterly bland. There's no interest or substance at all in the plot or the characters. Now, ironically enough, when they did the ending, they did try to have some interest and substance, but unfortunately it came out as an unjustifiable character twist with a character doing a 180 on their generic personality, only to try to make the ending more meaningful. It just felt so forced that I was legitimately laughing. A character twist is like a normal twist. You need foreshadowing or a moment when the audience says, "Oh yeah, that makes sense, I get it now." What they ended up doing is having a character go on a sadistic rampage revenge scheme and have the character act in no way like their personality. They tried to justify it by pulling out the "because their parents were killed." But last time I checked, people who were in all ways seemed to be psychologically sane don't magically turn into Ted Bundy. What they failed to do was justify this action by, I don't know, maybe leaving subtle psychological hints or perhaps showing the death of the parents. This whole scene is just another example of why the writers don't know what they are doing. If I'm laughing at what you call a dark character twist, I think you might be bad at writing or just be a really messed up comedian. You know, it's kind of sad because I do feel like they legitimately did try to make a good anime. Although it's not extremely rancid awful, the writers don't know how to properly set up a world, they don't know how to create unique characters, and they didn't give good interactions. And lastly, the plot didn't have much of anything that would save it from being completely forgettable at best. Everything is literally bland, generic, and underdeveloped. It became clear to me that the writers don't know what they're doing. I just can't recommend this for any reason. Almost everything was either below mediocrity or just plain bad. Not to mention, this is by far the worst case of a story telling instead of showing that I have ever seen. It is just the type of anime you will end up forgetting if you ever watch, which I recommend you don't. Why hello there, welcome to Slate Land. It's fun, there's unicorns, maybe. How about the Gurren Lagann review, recommending again, and the Attack on Titan review. 2 reviews to choose from, what fun. Oh boy, I hope this one doesn't get copyright claimed. It's having a fun time. Yeah, tried to fix that Attack on Titan copyright for like 2 days. Oh man, they were sadistic. We can only hope someday we may have peace in the copyright world. It's not gonna happen.